All right, welcome everybody. We are so excited to have you here today. I am Kat Duncan. I am the Director of Innovation at the Reynolds Journalism Institute. We are so excited to learn about shameless self-promotion for journalists. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to throw it in the chat or DM me directly. I'll be here helping behind the scenes a bit. Well, Ken takes it away. So, Ken is the founder of the Buckeye Flame. He is also a professor, right, out there in Cleveland, and we are so excited to learn from him today. So, Ken, please take it away.
Behind the scenes, I thought you were doing this with me. All right, we got this. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday or whenever. Oh, we will see you in Cleveland then this afternoon, John. Happy to be spending time with you all. This is actually some of my favorite content to share with folks, and I do it a lot. I am thrilled that it can be useful, and hopefully it opens some doors for you and probably closes some others, which is a good thing. So technically, we are doing shameless self-promotion for journalists. That is what we are technically doing. But this content is actually quite applicable to a number of different contexts. So this can also be your get a new job workshop. So if people want to give notice by the end of the day, we can get you a new job. This can absolutely be your meet your news match goal hour for those of you in nonprofit newsrooms or other newsrooms who have your year-end fundraising goals. Everything that we're going to cover helps me a lot with that. I learned last week that apparently this is helpful for building a better dating profile. So if that's what you need to use this for, I'm here for it. Please endorse me for that. Maybe not on LinkedIn. And then my personal passion, I actually do use this content in my activism and in the work that I do just out there in the world trying to make the world better. So this can be a number of different things for you if you put a little trust in me, and I hope that you do. So a little bit about me. I am from New Jersey. I'm a proud New Jerseyan. I have a bit of a bizarre career path in that I was a dean of students. My PhD is in student affairs. I was a dean of students when I was 25 years old. I wanted to do it for the rest of my life, and I burnt out at 35 years old. I then became a professor. I am a tenured professor of education at Baldwin Wallace University here in the Cleveland area, and then have been working in journalism. I've been a full-time professor and a full-time journalist for many, many years now. I'll talk about the Buckeye Flame in a second, but the big news in my world is that I actually just gave up my tenure and gave up my notice. I'm going to pilot out what it is to do one full-time job instead of two full-time jobs. So next semester will be my last semester, and my focus will be solely on the Buckeye Flame. So the Buckeye Flame, we stand as Ohio's only LGBTQ plus newsrooms. We are in a long line of dozens and dozens of LGBTQ newsrooms that have existed in Ohio over the past 60 years. But we are the only one left standing and one of only a handful of statewide LGBTQ newsrooms left in the country. The work that we do is pretty critically important here in Ohio, given that Ohio is one of those states where there are absolutely no legal protections for LGBTQ plus Ohioans in the areas of housing, public accommodations, or employment. So Baldwin Wallace University could fire me for being gay. Well, I have tenure, but try it, BW. And that's legal to fire me for being gay. It's legal to, if my two cats want to kick me out of the house for being gay, which I think sometimes they do, or kicking me out of a restaurant with me and my fictitious boyfriend for being gay. All of those are legal in Ohio. So what we do at the Buckeye Flame is we are working our tails off to just cover as much LGBTQ plus content from all around the state as possible. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing right now. So anybody who's ever done a workshop with me, taken a class with me, done anything with me, knows that I am particularly obsessed, and this is not the point of this workshop, but I like talking about this as well. I'm obsessed with this pantheon of programming called the art of hosting. And if any of you know the art of hosting, tell me in the chat because it's totally a cult and I'm absolutely a member. And the art of hosting is a series of techniques and approaches. It's all open source technology, so it's all free. But the idea behind the art of hosting is that we have to stop having meetings about having meetings. that we actually need to start moving the needle on our work, that we have to stop hiring consultants when the expertise is already in our community. Hire a consultant to facilitate a conversation, but stop hiring consultants when the expertise is already there. So the art of hosting has four principles and one law. And there's a reason that I always start every class, every workshop I do with these because they're extraordinarily helpful. And again, they're open source, so steal these. And my contact information will be at the end. You will be able to get in touch with me. I will give you this deck. Use whatever you want. So whoever's here are the people that need to be here right now. We spend a lot of time talking about the people that aren't in the room, which is really dumb because they're not in the room, right? So whoever's here are the people we need to be talking with. Whatever conversation we need to have is the conversation we need to have. If this goes in a different direction because someone has a great question in the chat, we'll go in that direction. Whenever we start is when we need to start, which we've started. And whenever we're done, we're done. I admire you type A folks who have that agenda that has all the timestamps and you need to stick to it. But when we're done, we're done. So there's that, right? There's the four principles. But the big deal for our time together over the next 54 minutes is the law of 2 feet. I am obsessed with this. So you don't know me yet. Some of you do, but most of you don't know me. So I'm asking you to put a little bit of trust in me, which I know is a lot for a Friday afternoon. But if you put a little trust in me and take my word for it that there's content here that you can use no matter what you are working on, you will be able to use this content. You might just need to do a little bit of translation depending on how you want to apply what I'm going over with you. So again, I did this workshop. I only did it 3 times last week. One was for a group of 30 leaders, young professionals in their 30s, working on their leadership in Cleveland. I then went straight from there to the Cleveland Institute of the Art to talk to 120 art students about how they can market their work better. And then I did a session with all female accountants, and that's where we had this dating conversation. And I was happy to do that. So if you put a little trust in me, yes, you can use this for job hunting. You can use this for your freelance work. I use this content daily for our end of the year fundraising. And I do think it's why we are where we are with our end of the year fundraising, and we're pretty far along. So you got to put a little trust in me, but you got to do a little bit of work yourself to do some translation. Sounds good? Sounds good. Okay. I am also a superhero nerd. I hope there are other superhero nerds. So there will be a lot of superheroes in this. I find that our time is best spent together if you focus on something for the rest of this hour. Is it your year-end fundraising? Is it an article you want people to read? Is it more clicks on your site? Is it a new job? Fix something in your head. I don't find that this is as helpful, this content, when you're like, I'm just going to take it in and I'm just open to everything. I mean, do that, and I hope it's helpful for you in that way. But I find this is particularly salient if you right this second, think of something that you want to work on. Do you want to boost views? Do you want to sell more ad content on your site? Do you want to pitch more freelance stories and get more gigs? So think of something. Again, I know a lot of us are just in that year-end fundraising place, especially at our nonprofit organization. So fix that in your head. So here's the deal. This is in our safe place. If any of you do not know John Bon Jovi, that makes me nervous. I would respectfully ask that you leave this workshop right away if you don't. He is the poet laureate of my home state of New Jersey. None of those Cleveland Institute of the Arts students knew him, and that was really painful for me. Right now, thank you, Dana. Right now, right this second, someone is not doing something that you want them to do. They are not listening to your new news podcast. They are not interacting with you on social media. They are not sharing your content. They are not contributing to your year-end fundraising campaign. They are not accepting your pitch for a new article that you want to propose, right? Right now, something is not happening that you want to happen. You want the progress. But in the chat, my friends, very quickly, how do humans feel about change? Really quick. How do humans feel generally about change. We hate it. And why do we hate it? It's scary. It's uncomfortable. It makes us nervous. We don't like change. Even if something sucks, we stay with the thing that sucks because the new thing might be worse. So people stay in bad situations. So again, right now, you want progress, whatever that thing is that you thought of, right? You want people to download that new news podcast. You want people to contribute to their end of the year fundraising campaign. But that represents change. And as humans, it took you 2 seconds to say, we don't really like change. So, how do we grease the wheels to change? That's what this is all about. All right. So, that's where shameless self promotion comes in. And so what we're going to start out doing is going over the kryptonite, what's really holding people back from doing shameless self-promotion. We start with the emotional part. Okay, let's keep using our chat. When I say shameless self-promotion, when I say go out there and promote yourself, give me that gut reaction. What does that inspire in people? How do you feel about doing shameless self-promotion? Ick, I love that. Obnoxious. What else? Dread. Oh, you guys are awesome. Fear, not for me. Scary, no thank you. Right. We're not supposed to talk about ourselves. It's supposed to be about the work. Let me pause right there. I love that sentence. I've written a number of books. And I hosted a radio show. I hosted this nationally syndicated radio show called This Show Is So Gay. You can still find it at thisshowissogay.com. And I had to read a lot of books to interview guests. There were 430 episodes of that show over 10 years, right? And some of the books were bad. My first book is really, really good. The other three are fine. The first one is really, really good. And I truly felt, Lisa, that if it's good, people are just going to find it. Here's this article. This article is amazing. People are just going to find it. It literally does not work like that. And it's depressing, and we can rail against the system that good work just will automatically be found, but it's just not true. I start with the emotional part, and this is our quasi-counseling. I am not a counselor. Disclaimer here. If you are emotionally harmed by this workshop, you need to sue RJI and not Ken Schneck. We start with this because this is what holds people up. I can give you all the tools in the world, and I'm going to give you a couple tools. But if you are sitting here with these emotions that we know that we're all sitting with, you will talk yourself out of it. The word shameless, I'm not going to even ask in the chat, right? The word shameless, is it positive or negative? Most people would say that's a negative word, which is hilarious because shameless literally means without shame. But we were socialized, and not just we, in particular, women and historically marginalized populations have been socialized to not take up space. And so to be shameless and to take up space is to be bad, which is terrible and untrue. So as we're starting to think about self-promotion, we need to acknowledge that there are things that we have these reactions right away. It's uncomfortable, it's icky, imposter syndrome, which we're going to talk about in another slide. I start from a place where, hey, just a reminder, there's a lot of straight, white, older men who are not encountering this emotional part at all, who have absolutely no hesitation to do shameless self-promotion. I'll give you the tools, at least two. But if you are talking yourself out of it and not addressing that this is going to feel icky at the start, that it is going to be uncomfortable, and I actually had that emotion earlier today, and we'll talk about that in a second, you got to acknowledge the emotional part. Okay? That's where we start. Some of these other ones are quick. You do need a thing. I just want more people to know about me. That's not a thing. That's literally not a thing. What is the specific thing that you are looking to promote? Right? Is it a book? Is it a podcast? Is it an article? Is it your outlet? What is it? Right? What are you trying to promote specifically? And then you need to have a measurable goal. I am a qualitative researcher, so please know that I am not a big metrics person. And yet, you need to know if you were successful at your promotion cycle. because we're going to talk about what a promotion cycle can look like, right? If you are putting up a post about your Newsmatch year-end fundraising campaign on social media, right? Let's say you put it on Facebook, which the students told me last week makes me old. You put it on Facebook. The number of people who see that post is different than the number of people who like that post, which is different than the number of people who share that post, which is different than the number of people who click on the post to go to your donate site, which is different than the number of people who actually donate. All of those are valid metrics, but you need to pick something straight away that you're able to measure so that you know at the end, okay, here's my thing, and here's how I know if I will be successful. Uh, if you're a lot of you host events for your newsrooms, how do you measure the success of an event? I said this to the students last week. Some of them were RAs. I am a proud former NYU RA. And right after you do a workshop or an event, as an RA, you have to fill out a piece of paper. What is the first thing that you're asked? And indeed, as Rebecca has said, the audience numbers. How many people showed up? Now, that can absolutely be a measurable goal, but the number of people who show up to your events is not the best metric all the times, depending on what you're looking at. I'd rather get 75% of people donating at a 100-person event than I would 1% at a 1,000-person event, right? I did the math on that, so you have to trust me, right? So just be really careful about your metrics. You need to know who your audience is. And I find that a lot of times we're just putting it out there to the world, and we're not really thinking about changing our messaging based on who's reading it. For my first book, I did a book tour, and there were two events back to back. One night, it was a Thursday night, I remember. Thursday night was at my parents' synagogue in New Jersey, and Friday night was at a hippie healing retreat in Vermont. Now, what was my thing? My thing was my book. What was my goal? To sell the damn book. And so, given that, you actually have to play differently to these two audiences. I read two completely different chapters for my parents' friends at the temple in New Jersey than I did for my friends at the hippie healing retreat in Vermont. Who are you playing to, and are you tailoring your message to that audience? I talk differently to professors than I do to students, right? I actually don't, but I know other people do. So, who's your audience? You must know what other people are doing in your space. What other nonprofit newsrooms or newsrooms? I don't know why I'm just sticking with nonprofits because I'm part of a nonprofit newsroom. You're not the only B2B out there. You're not the only nonprofit newsroom. You're not the only Cleveland newsroom. All of that is fine. I laugh sometimes when people say, I'm the only one doing this. You're not. That's okay. That's me saying on this, I'm the only journalist on this Zoom. I'm not. I'm the only journalist who does something very specific, but I do need to know who the other newsrooms are, even in my Cleveland ecosystem. I need to know that there's Signal and that there's The Land and that there's Cleveland.com and Cleveland Scene. And these are all different publications and they do very different things, but you do need to have a sense of what other people are doing. For those of you who are working on a book, right? One of the first things you're asked is, who else writes like you? What are the other comp titles? And I know it's adorable in your head to go in and say, oh, there is nothing like this out there. You can't say that. You need to be able to say, well, David Sedaris did some of the tone of this, but also, right, like you need to be able to say other people who are working in your space because that's what helps define a very specific shameless self-promotion cycle. Everybody doing okay? Seems like you're doing okay. I'm going to keep going. Okay. You need to do this in an authentic way. I am shocked at how often, now it doesn't mean learn new things. I'm a fan of learning new things. I am not a data journalist. If I attempted to do a piece that was rooted in data journalism, that is going to be a crap piece that people will immediately write in and say, that's not true, those conclusions that you just drew, right? And so whatever it is that you're doing, if you're not the social media person, then how can you work with people who are and develop your skills, right? And I can see the chat too, so I am somewhat monitoring, but Kat's going to help me. Um, I I am a stand-up comic. It's what I do, so I have no problem being in front of a group of people, right? But what I hate doing, which was part of an event last night, which we'll talk about in a second, is unstructured schmoozing. I hate unstructured schmoozing. I will stand by a table and have you come up to my table. I will be on stage with a mic. I am fine with all of that. But the idea that I have to circulate and just schmooze is not comfortable for me. And so I try to create experiences that are more rooted in my authenticity. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to push yourself a little bit and learn new skills, but if you are so, oh, I never talk about this, right? There's the three spheres. There's the middle one of our comfort zone. That's where we hang out. That's where my cat is. That's where Netflix is. And then the next sphere out is where we grow and we learn and we push ourselves a little bit. But then the one outside of that is panic, right? Because we pushed ourselves too far. So we want to push our skills a little bit, but if you're not a stand-up comic, why? Why are you representing your newsroom on stage and trying to do jokes that are not going to go over well? If you're not a data journalist, why would I attempt to do that? So you do have to figure out what your authenticity is. And again, I will give you tools to help you out with this. Sense of urgency is huge. Again, I'm not going to go all the way back, but people are not inclined to change. One of the things that greases the wheels to change is a sense of urgency. How can you quickly get across why it's important for people to change? Now, I mean, Rebecca highlighted it in when we were talking about the efficacy of an event, the opportunity of getting money, right? That is a sense of urgency. The idea that you might lose money. Here in Ohio, that rights are being taken away, right? Oh, it's a great question. I'm going to get to that about authenticity and exposing yourselves to different experiences. Hold on to that. And if I forget it, remind me, but I won't because it's in another slide. Um, Here in Ohio, the sense of urgency for the Buckeye Flame is super easy. Rights are being taken away nonstop. The newest bill this week, and we are the first in the country to pass a bill like this. It hasn't passed yet, but it had its first hearing, would be to ban all public colleges in Ohio from asking for an optional, even if it's optional, to ask for preferred pronouns in applications to admission or applications for employment at all public colleges. So I then need to translate that bill into a sense of urgency. And so it's been hard explaining that to people this week, as opposed to House Bill 8 here in Ohio, which would force all teachers and school staff to automatically out LGBTQ kids to their families. That one hits much faster because the sense of urgency is there, right? So sometimes we have to do a little bit of explaining to connect people to the sense of urgency. Okay. Gonna keep going. Imposter syndrome. And my cat just looked up at that, which is hilarious because she does not have it. I have no problem telling you I am a proud imposter syndrome member. My career didn't start in journalism, and so sometimes when I am around a group of journalists, I am very fortunate to be in this cohort of City University of New York, change leaders from around the world in journalism. And some of you who are in that cohort are here right now, which is fun. But even as I'm sitting there, and obviously I don't really have an issue speaking up. I sit there in the corner and I get a little cringy. I'm like, wow, I have no business speaking as I'm sitting next to someone from the Atlantic, and on the other side of me is someone from the Appeal, and she works for Gannett. And I'm like, what am I doing here? A couple years ago, and it's funny that I cringe even as I'm about to say this. A couple years ago, I was literally the national journalist, the national LGBTQ journalist of the year. And yet I sit among journalists, and even I get one of the things with imposter syndrome that's helped me a ton, and I'm a snarky gay Jew from New Jersey. So please know that I do not say cheesy things because I rebel against touchy-feely things. And so this is the cheesiest thing I will say. Oh, thank you very much. And again, cringing, even as I said that out loud, which we'll talk about. With imposter syndrome, what's helped me is that just go real quick. There are a ton of people who do what I do. There are a ton of people who do what I do. I am not the only queer journalist. There are other queer journalists in this Zoom. I'm not the only LGBTQ plus newsroom. There are other LGBTQ plus newsrooms. I am not the only person who does what I do, but I am the only person who does it in the way that I do it. Does that make sense? Right? So I start from a place of knowing there are other people who do what I do, but I'm the only one who does it in the way that I do it. And so you need to be able to articulate what that way is, which we're going to get to, I promise. 25 minutes. Wow, we're flying. Okay. Imposter syndrome. And finally, these words are killing our shameless self promotion. I have to cast my mind back all the way to 19 hours ago. So I was on a panel last night at the City Club of Cleveland, which is this wonderful democratic free speech forum. And one of the other people on the panel I know. And so we were going around introducing ourselves before the event, just as a small group, is the poet laureate of Cleveland Heights. She's the poet laureate of Cleveland Heights, which is a city here in Northeast Ohio. And I said, when I saw her, because I hadn't seen her, but I said, "Oh my God, Ciara, the poet laureate." And her response immediately was, "It's only Cleveland Heights." Why? Why are we using words like only and just? And then a new word for you all, this wasn't on here last week, is the word surprising or surprisingly, right? So I was talking to my sister on Monday, and she said, I just had the best tennis experience, and I did surprisingly well. Why are we saying the word surprisingly and only? I'm only a journalist, or I'm only a freelancer, or no, I'm just new here. I've only been here for a couple months. When we use these words, only and just and surprising, we are giving the listener or the reader an excuse to discard everything that we're saying. We are intentionally diminishing, maybe it's hopefully it's not intentionally, but we are diminishing what we're doing. And we know right now, I mean, look, right now there's 80 something people, 91, Jesus, 91 people on this Zoom, right? We're all trying to promote something. That's okay. That's fine. So we know that we're all competing for space because people's attention span is so short. So why are we using words like only and just, which gives people an excuse to say, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to Ken. That sounds like it's not as important as what Kat is saying, who's not using the word only and just and surprising." And it should not surprise you. Again, disproportionately women and historically marginalized populations using these words, diminishing our accomplishments. When we do that, we are giving the reader, the listener, the viewer an excuse to move on to the next person. And thank you, Lisa. Yeah, this is big. And if you remember nothing else, take these words out and it really will make a difference. I could not believe when she said that last night. She's literally the poet laureate of a poet laureate. She said, "No, it's only what? Stop. Stop." Right? Okay. Quick review before we move into some tools. So you need to have a thing that you're working on. Hopefully you all are thinking of something. And if you want to put it in the chat, I would love to see it. Like, what are you thinking about? What are you looking to promote? How are you measuring it? Right? Others who have more followers is another way of feeling less secure. Sure, if your metric is followers, but again, what's the engagement rate? So for the Buckeye Flames newsletter, we have a fraction of the newsletter subscription number than some of our colleagues here in Cleveland. A fraction. But our open rate is 54%, which is pretty darn good, right? So our 54%, the number of people interacting with our newsletter, is actually astronomically more than some bigger subscription basis. Okay. I know that the whole Twitter piece, and we're starting over, but again, what we're seeing already on Blue Sky is a higher engagement rate. So if your goal was solely followers, that's fine. Then yes, you need to engage in some sort of self-promotion cycle because you need to get your followers to what your Twitter numbers are. But if your metrics were engagement or conversions from Blue Sky to the articles, then those numbers might not matter. Okay. These are really important pieces and why this slide is super important. Okay. You need to know who you're talking to. We do when we post a new article on the Buckeye Flame, not only do we post it on our social media, but there are and it's something to witness me doing this. My staff just laughs at me, but there are 36 hyper local LGBTQ plus Ohio Facebook groups. Every time we post an article, I post it in the applicable hyperlocal groups. So if it's something that affects the whole state, it goes in every single one of those groups. This morning, it was about an event in Akron. So, and it didn't, right, as much as I love solutions journalism, it wasn't necessarily something that someone in Dayton could be like, oh, okay, I could do that. It was just very specific. So I didn't put it in the Dayton group. I didn't put that article in the Toledo group because that wasn't my defined audience for this. I wanted to convert people who are in Akron because that's what this event is all about. So that's an example of where I tweak my self promotion or my outlet's promotion based on the defined audience. You need to know what other people are doing in your space. And what is your space? Is it regional? Is it topic specific? Is it a type of publication? Is it the other nonprofit ones? Right? Supporting the well-being of journalists. And think about that, Lisa, of like, what is your metric of deciding if that was successful? Is it Ken is more well now? Good luck with that. That's a terrible metric. That's not happening, Lisa. You need a new goal. Do it in your authentic way. You need to have a sense of urgency, which we'll talk about in a second. Imposter syndrome is a thing. I get it. I couldn't possibly post again. I just posted this morning. Okay. There are a number of people who are not, and again, mostly straight white older men, who have no hesitation about posting multiple times a day. You are talking yourself out of something that other people are not talking themselves out of. And then these words that diminish. Are you all doing things that are intentionally diminishing what it is that you're doing? The words are intentional. Hopefully you are not. Okay. Those are our kryptonite. Everybody doing all right? Any questions on any of the kryptonites? Did I miss anything? Yes, share your Blue Sky handles. Love it. Specific goals, article on Blue Sky. Love it. All of this. Okay, you all seem like you're doing all right. Let's go into some of the things that we do. All right. For those of you who are doing a ton of different things, a ton of different articles, I love seeing the blue skies in the chat. I should probably know mine off the top of my head, and I absolutely don't. Yay, Lo. I love that. $20,000 by January. That is measurable, and we're going to figure out how you do that, and it's going to be helpful. So if you're doing a ton of different things, a ton of different articles, a ton of different events. So I said earlier, I burnt out. I burnt out from my student affairs job. I wanted to do it for the rest of my life, and I completely burnt out because I was saying yes to every single promotional opportunity, every single one, which I do have a slide about that, but there's a caveat. What I was able to put words to that really helped me was finding a narrative thread that connects all of the different things that I do. And it enabled me to say no to some self-promotion opportunities that were off brand for me. So what I was able to pick up on, and people do it in different ways. I spoke to some friends and to a therapist because I was burning out. And I realized, okay, for me to say yes to a self-promotion opportunity, it has to be for me Something that involves lifting up an underrepresented voice. Storytelling that lifts up underrepresented voices or historically marginalized voices, right? I hate the phrase doesn't have a voice. Everybody has a voice. It's just that many voices aren't being heard. So please, that's another one. I don't have a slide on. Please don't use the phrase we have no voice. Everybody has a voice. It's just the system set up so that some voices are not heard. That's a different workshop. Narrative thread. So that's my narrative thread. That helped me be able to figure out what I say yes to, and it was really empowering for me. So I really encourage you to look at your different promotions. Is there a narrative thread that connects all them? Is there a narrative thread that connects all of your freelance work? We had a freelancer reach out to us yesterday, and I don't totally understand what their niche is, which we'll talk about a little bit later either. Like, what is it that you do? And saying you do everything is a beautiful thing, but quite frankly, I want to hire someone who's really passionate about doing something specific, right? The jack of all trades, I don't know what to recommend you for. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So find your narrative thread. If you're an I have a colleague on here. She is an operations guru. And so she can provide me with handbooks and stuff. And so I know that I can go to her for that because that's part of her narrative thread. How many of you have done elevator pitches? How many of you, tell me in the chat, elevator pitches, have we done them? Do we do them? Is it something that you do? Yes, good. Okay. Dana has. It's me and Dana. I've heard of them. Great. Oh, Noelle, I love it. No, Stacy, you are not terrible at it. Oh my gosh, I love all of this. So we're all over the map. Here's the deal. This is not theoretical. You're going to see this slide a ton. What I'm going to share with you is not a theoretical exercise of like, oh, wow, what a great concept. My students know I actually don't give a crap about theory unless we're able to apply the theory. Theories that we can't use are useless to me. That's why I'm not a theoretical practitioner. So what I'm going to share with you is not theoretical. So, elevator pitch. And again, I'll give out this information if you want to take a picture of this slide, whatever it is. There is a sample elevator pitch worksheet, tinyurl.com/elevator pitch, please. Okay. But it'll come up again and you'll be able to get in touch with me before you go full force into that worksheet. But I use it all the time. I did one this morning. Every time I am looking to promote something, not every article, that would be exhausting, but for a new fundraising campaign, heck yeah, I do an elevator pitch worksheet. If we're looking to introduce a new feature on our website, absolutely, I do an elevator pitch worksheet. Thank you, Kat. So this is, how many times can I say, this is not theoretical, okay? Here are the components. I love that people think this is such a waste of time. Like, yeah, obviously we introduce ourselves. I cannot tell you, and I have to do a lot of networking events, how many times I hear a great idea from someone who at no point introduced themselves. What a great idea that was. I will now never be able to find you. Okay. So introducing ourselves is a really important piece, and I take responsibility. I have done this particular deck. I tweak it all the time. You guys got some new slides today, but I've done this deck easily. 100 times would probably be conservative. I didn't realize until last week that my name was nowhere in the deck. I was not even introducing myself. Like, wow, that guy was good, but he didn't say his name. Hopefully, I was good, right? So introducing yourself, that should be an easy sentence number one of there. What is your affiliation? Okay. Now, again, you got to apply this to, I'll give you an example of the Buckeye Flames year-end fundraising campaign for Newsmatch. So we are the Buckeye Flame. We are Ohio's only LGBTQ plus publication. Done. Sentence number one, done. Sentence number two is about identifying, creating a sense of urgency by, it's creating a sense of urgency by identifying a void or an abundance. Right now, there is a true lack of queer journalists of color in Ohio and content covering LGBTQ plus Ohioans of color in Ohio. Those voices, which are majorly present in Ohio, are not being amplified. That is my sense of urgency. And so my solution is we will be hiring a full-time journalist next year to solely focus on LGBTQ plus Ohioans of color. Okay. And so what I need people to do is to actually donate. Let me go through the components one more time. We're identifying ourselves. We're creating a sense of urgency. Go back to that slide. People are not reading the article that you want them to read. Sorry, I should back up a step. Elevator pitches need to be super fast. I will give you my contact information on the last slide. I encourage you to send me your elevator pitch. I will give you feedback. I will tell you in advance it's too long. We need to be able to convey this quickly. Every single social media post is an elevator pitch. Abundance. I mean, quite frankly, an abundance can also be there are a huge number of LGBTQ plus Ohioans of color that are not currently seeing themselves represented in news stories. That's an abundance. Press forward, that's a whole different workshop. Press forward for some is an abundance. So how do we tap into that, right? Here's this opportunity for us to access funds. Here's this opportunity for us to get more subscribers. Here's this opportunity for us to get a new job. So that can be the abundance of tapping into. I did this a few weeks ago with someone who was writing a book she has a book on etiquette on social media. And the abundance that she identified the lack was a lack of civility on social media, and it was an abundance of rudeness on social media. This sentence number 2 is an entry point, something that people can identify. And then you are presenting your solution. Oh, that makes me happy, George. Good luck. Presenting your solution. And then this is the hilarious part. People stop and they don't do sentence number 4. You actually need to ask people to do something. A few weeks ago, someone asked me to do, she said, oh, can we get coffee together? I want to pick your brain. Sure. Sure. She said, can we schedule an hour and a half? Absolutely not. I don't want to spend that much time with me. So you shouldn't either. Half an hour is more than enough to have tea with me at my coffee shop. So we did a half an hour together. Friends, I have no idea what she wanted. I can tell you she didn't get it. That sounds mean. It wasn't intentional. I just didn't want to be presumptuous. I don't know if she wanted me to introduce her to people. I have no idea if she wanted me to invest, which is hilarious. I have no money. I have no idea what she wanted because she didn't ask me for anything. That goes back to our idea of you can do sentence 1, 2, and 3 and say, your book is amazing. This article is amazing. What is stopping you from adding the sentence on social media that says, read this, share this, donate to this? Don't just say we're at 40% of our goal. Say donate to get us to 42% of our goal. Last year, our year-end fundraising pitch was, and this is where the specific thing is really important. I'm not a huge fan of just saying give to our newsroom, right? I like saying we're fundraising for something specific. This summer, we just a few weeks ago opened our first brick and mortar newsroom. It's very, very exciting. I absolutely love it. We do 2 fundraising campaigns during the year, this year-end one, and we do one for our birthday in June. So in June, we were very specific and said, we're raising money. We wanted to raise 2 months worth of rent and utilities for our newsrooms. We were very specific about how important the newsroom was to our work. In 2 emails, we raised 2 years of rent and utilities. Last year for Newsmatch, our goal was to hire the LAC. Let me just do it real quick, right? We are the Buckeye Flame, the only LGBTQ plus newsroom in Ohio. Rural voices, rural LGBTQ voices are not being represented in the media. They're just not consistently. It's mostly Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati here in Ohio. Our solution is we want to hire a journalist to solely focus on rural LGBTQ plus voices. Can you please donate to support that? We raised 100% so damn fast. And we now have, until one of you tells me I'm wrong, which I will stop saying it as soon as someone tells me I'm wrong, the Buckeye Flame employs the only rural LGBTQ plus beat reporter in the country, right? This is not theoretical. One fun thing to do, and I encourage you to do this. If any of you are nonprofit newsrooms or you just do this with your staff, print out the elevator pitch, give it to the board of your nonprofit, have everyone fill it out about the nonprofit, and then collect them and see what you get. I guarantee there's going to be some differences. That's fine. It's just important for you to know. Give it to your staff about the year-end fundraising campaign, right? Give it to, have everybody fill this out and compare them because a self promotion campaign, and self could be of your newsroom or of an article, whatever it might look different if everyone is not on the same page, and you do need everyone to be on the same page. Okay? I'm so happy this is useful for folks. I'm loving these comments in the chat. Do this. It helps me every time I am engaging in a new campaign. Okay. Let me go over some other things that have been helpful. Supporting each other is big. I try to show up for as many different things as I can. If someone sends me an article, I do try to read it, right? And provide a couple words. If someone sends me their fundraising campaign, I do try to donate to it to the level that I'm able to, because then when I ask, not this is my sole motivating factor, right? Because we want to do things that are on brand for us. This sounds horribly opportunistic, which by the way is not a negative word either. Shameless shouldn't be a negative word. Opportunistic means I'm taking advantage of an opportunity. That's great. When I turn around and ask people, hey, can you contribute? I get a ton of donations, in particular from people who I've donated to. It doesn't say Cat $25 out of guilt. It just says Cat $25, right? I don't care why people are showing up. I don't care why people are donating. If that's the reason they're donating, great. But I know that for me, and I have that experience too. If I, oh crap, Kat's doing a fundraising campaign and she donated to mine, right? It just keeps going. So supporting each other can be really good, especially when you're doing things that are on brand for you. I do try to say yes to as many things as possible that are, I'm not going to go all the way back to the authenticity slide, but that are authentic for me. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Dana. And we're going to talk about that on the last slide, and it's a hilarious little thing. Last year, 2 years ago, I said yes to American Greetings, the greeting cards. They're headquartered here in Northeast Ohio, and they said, "Can you do a 5-minute version of this to our employees?" And there were 500 of them there, and I got the sense it was mandatory. So my first slide, I said, you know, the person who's most happy for me to be here right now. I mean, whatever, I do this all the time, so great. I don't get a sense it's you all because it's mandatory. And I put up a slide of me and my mom at my bar mitzvah, which was legit a really long time ago, because it is super true that my mom's dream for me still to this day, she doesn't care about the professor, journalist. She always, in the past and to this day, wants me to write greeting cards. That's what she wants. And so I told them that story, and then we talked about shameless self-promotion. They laughed, blah, blah, blah. And a woman came up to me at the end of the workshop and said, I want to make your mom's dreams come true. And she offered me a contract to write some greeting cards for American Greetings. And so I've written one, and I'm really proud of it. But I said yes to something that was on brand for me that then opens up other opportunities. When I have said yes to things that are off brand for me, I have paid for it every single time. I can give you tons of examples. I'd rather not. I will say, yes, I was on a gay Republicans YouTube show, and that was off brand for me. We can do a separate workshop on gay Republicans. And it was terrible, and it did not help me at all. I would actually say it did a little bit of harm. Please get paid for your work and stop giving it away for free. Okay? I am seeing this constantly, and yes, yet again, I am seeing it consistently from women and historically marginalized populations. When I say, sure, I'll do it for free. Then when Kat comes in the next year to do exactly the same workshop, and Kat's like, yeah, I get paid 1,000, they will say, well, Ken did it for free, and I've now screwed over Kat. It devalues our self-promotion, it devalues our work, and it does not create a sense of urgency when you are constantly giving away your talents for free. Okay. Now, we know also that a lot of us are working with nonprofits. And so maybe we're asking for things other than money. Maybe we're saying, hey, I'll do this for you for free, but can you share this link with 5 other people? Again, very specific. Not like, can you tell people about me? That's not measurable. Can you share my link with 5 other people? So there are alternatives, right? Um, how do you square saying yes when someone asks for free with getting paid, right? I do think that there are alternative things to ask for, right? But I will also say that, some of these places do have money. There is a healthcare organization here in the Cleveland area. Let's say that they rhyme with the Meveland Minute. And they wanted me to do a workshop for $50. Well, the Cleveland Clinic has a lot of money, or excuse me, the Meveland Minute has a lot of money, right? So it's actually okay to ask for more than that. Yes. Thank you, Tara. I'm nuts about this. I will not allow people to do stuff for free. Word of mouth is big. A colleague of mine here in Cleveland, her name is Shayna Black. In addition to Black being her last name, she is also a Black woman. And she grew up in Cleveland listening to R&B stations. And one day she turned the dial, the radio dial, and she would hear about certain events on the R&B stations. And she turned the dial one day to a top 40 station, and she heard about entirely different events. So she started attending the entirely different events, and promoters were like, wait a second, can you bring all your friends to these events? And from that, Black Girl Media here in Cleveland was born, and now it's like an empire. Shayna Black told me that story took less than 1 minute. I timed it. Shayna Black told me that story 7 years ago. Shayna Black is literally not on this Zoom. I don't think so. And yet, I am out here promoting her because her elevator pitch was tight. If your elevator pitch, again, how many times can I say this? It's not theoretical. If your elevator pitch for your freelance work, for what you're putting out there is tight and specific, other people are going to talk about it. If you are putting out there, and this goes back to what I said earlier, I can do anything. I can write anything. Okay, I don't know what to recommend you for. It's okay to say, I'm very versatile, but I particularly love writing political profiles. Great. Now I know how to slot you in. And so I know that the idea is I'm going to go into a job interview and say I can do anything. I would push back and say that's not authentic. And you are going to burn out. So it is okay to say this, I can do a lot of things, but this is what gives me life. This is what gives me passion. If you say you can do anything, this sounds really harsh, and I apologize. If you say you can do anything, I will likely recommend you for nothing. And one of my favorite things to do is to recommend people. Like I know really quickly that Tara loves operation stuff and can put together a great manual. Great. I now know what to tap into for help. We need an honorarium policy. Tara's probably going to get me one, and I'm going to pay her for it. An honorarium, which is hilarious because it keeps cycling, right? So it's okay to be specific and not to be a jack of all trades. By the way, and I know seems silly, but it is the same thing for a dating profile. You got to know that you're not the only person on the dating sites, right? Oh my God, feminist urbanism using New Jersey. I am going to remember that. You're not going to go on a dating site and say, I can be anyone you want me to be. Burn out and you're going to not find what you want. So it's okay to be specific because that helps you get the opportunity that you're looking for. A couple more. Timing is big. Timing is big, okay? Let me do an example. Oh, a few years ago, remember they had those horrific murders of Asian American Pacific Islander women in Atlanta, I think it was, and they had Stop Asia hate rallies all across the country, and there was one here in Cleveland. And now, right, I went to that because I want to be supportive. There was nothing, I wasn't expecting anything in return, right? So I went to that, and there was a guy walking around signing people up for climate justice at the Stop Asian Hate rally. Screw that guy, right? Unless it was you. No, still. We don't want to take, there's a difference between being supportive and taking up space with our own self promotion. The quickest way to turn me off from supporting what it is that you are promoting is to co-opt space that isn't yours. We see this in any Q&A after any panel, right? Where there's not a question to be found. It's really just someone who's pissed off that they weren't asked to be on the panel who wants to promote their own thing. I am immediately uninterested in supporting your thing, right? So timing, supporting people is really important. Read the room, please, right? But I don't think that people understand how much it turns people off to buying into their self-promotion later. And then finally, it's really important to know when to ditch the pitch. I love a good elevator pitch, but it is critically important that you have more information to follow that up with. People have pitched me something. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Tell me more. And then they run away because there wasn't anything else behind that. So you do need to have more information behind the pitch. Okay, wait, Noelle, I'm checking this out as a local journalist. Yes, cover literally anything. I feel that so deeply. I really want to do. I've covered this without really factoring in the type of journalism I actually want to do. Some of that is going to be proof is in the pudding as well. Of hopefully you're able to find those opportunities. A lot of times, I will speak from the eye. I get nervous. It took me years to be able to say, no, you're giving me these citywide issues I had this one article on covering Cleveland's tree canopy, and it went so badly for me because I said I can do anything. That is not in my wheelhouse. I now, after the experience of writing that 4,000 word article, I now hate trees. And I am actively trying to reduce Cleveland's tree canopy because it was such a horrible experience and it was so lacking in authenticity for me. And finally, I was able to voice, there's so many different things I can do. Can we make sure that one of them is in this area? Right? So I feel that so deeply, Noel, is just looking for maybe micro opportunities to be able to say, but you need to be able to say it succinctly, here's what I do. Okay. Oh, there's so much going on. This is really funny to me. This and it seems like, oh, it's the last slide. It's contact info. Until today, I actually didn't have information on here saying, here's how to donate. Because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to take up space in this way. People are coming to this workshop. It's a Friday afternoon, right? Like, what? That's so cringy to also say, hey, if you want to donate, we would love it. By the way, that's not a good elevator pitch. If you want to donate, it specifically goes to supporting LGBTQ plus journalism, where not a lot of LGBTQ plus journalism exists, and it's so desperately needed as LGBTQ issues are being covered by my colleagues in some really horrendous ways. Dead naming and both sidesing things that don't have both sides, right? And so it's incredible. I want you all to know that even though I present this all the time, it wasn't until today that I even said, here's how you donate. I don't know where that's going to end up. If it results in a donation, by the way, it already did this hour, which is incredible, right? Why not put that out there? Maybe someone's going to share it. Maybe someone who didn't know about the Buckeye Flame. If you have not subscribed, you only get one email a week. I would love to boost the subscriptions, right? It's okay to ask people. This isn't, I mean, if it was Kat's presentation, that would be taking up space in a weird way, right? That's the difference between taking up space and supporting other people. Here's the deal. I love reading elevator pitches. I'm hoping this was minimally helpful to you, right? This was a mad dash hour, and we're actually at the end of our time. Email me. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I might go take a nap, but I'm around, right? If you have questions, because it's tough to do a Q&A with this many folks, right? Send me an email, reach out. Look, I wouldn't mind a boost. It's been a rough day already. If this was great for you, send me an email. I am using one of my metrics of getting one email that said this went pretty well. But actually, I love what you're putting in the chat. Elevator pitch is different for different products and services compared to the one for you. That's a great question, Flavian. Different audiences create different elevator pitches. So how I would present information to my students is different than how I would present information to funders. How I would present information to an LGBTQ audience is different, a self-promotion cycle. So audiences often do, or sorry, I should complete that sentence, to a more general audience. So I do vary my elevator pitch based on audience, based on product. Get in touch with me. So excited that I get to spend this opportunity, this time with you all on a Friday, and get out there and please go promote what you are doing. That's my pitch.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ken. Does anyone, I know we're at time, but if anyone has questions, they're all going to email you. So that's
I'm here for it. I love this stuff. And it really has helped me. It has helped me a ton. I have no interest in presenting stuff that doesn't help me as well.
all right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom, Ken. We really appreciate it. And I'll be sending this email out with contact info, recording, all the information you guys want so that you can also access it later. So thank you again and have a great weekend, everybody.